names and locations have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty. Now this is one of my more jarring discoveries and experiences on the dating marketplace in Australia. So, I matched with this girl. So I'll call her Macy. Macy, I matched with her on Tinder. Now Macy is a stunner. The type of girl you expect to see on OnlyFans or some other adult entertainment platform. Very beautiful facially, and her body was quite proportionate and exaggerated in the areas that pique men's interest. Anyway, Macy matched with me. I really honestly didn't even think I would match with her, or if she was a real person. Thought probably a bot or a scam, you know, using some other person's images. But anyways, we matched and I decided to play along. We talked for a very short time on the app and she was quite happy to give me her phone number. And I thought, okay, I guess let's just see where this goes. So I continued talking to her, and we were talking on the app, on WhatsApp. And she would engage with me quite erratically. So there'll be moments where they'll be back and forth with barely a minute's delay in the messages going back and forth. She sounded very grounded. She sounded very mature. In fact, she was taking all the boxes you'd wanted if you were looking for a serious relationship. And this somehow didn't match what I was seeing in terms of what she looked like. I mean, she wasn't shy when it came to her photos. I mean, she was basically, advertising what she was working with, Not entirely scantily dressed, but accentuating all her assets, Surely showing off that, hey, I'm pretty, and I've got this to offer. But when I was talking to her, she sounded very mature and very grounded. She told me she was a single mom, but she was quite young. She was about in her 20s, I believe 24. Then bearing all the gifts that come with that, age, with what is basically a woman's prime. She seemed to have the maturity of a woman, twice her age, really. The few red flags that started popping up, though, and I just dismissed them as someone with high optionality, was she would sporadically communicate very consistently, 1 minute delay, and then might go quiet for a couple of days, or, 24 hours, and then come back into the conversation like nothing happened. I would try to set up dates, and she wouldn't really give me a clear answer as to whether it's a yes or a no. It was always a bit of a maybe. She was very keen to send me pictures, videos, speak over the phone even, so I was quite sure this is a real person, and she was. At this stage, there was no dial. So I was, initially I suggested let's meet up for a coffee, and she was taken strongly aback, saying, "Oh, you think I'm worth a coffee?" Oh yeah, this is probably important to mention. So she's from a Slavic background, migrated to Australia. So, I thought maybe this is also part of their culture, so she was kind of offended by the fact that I offered we meet for a coffee just so that we see if we vibe in real person. And she basically said, "Do you think that's all I'm worth, a coffee?" And I said, "Of course not. That's nothing to do with what you're worth." Try to explain myself. She went a bit cold, disappeared for about a day or two, and eventually came back, had a bit of a short chat, text messages, and then disappeared again. And I thought, okay, maybe that's it. And we went several days, maybe a week or two without talking, and I thought, well, yeah, I didn't think I was going to materialize into anything anyway. Long shot, a girl who looks like that. Highly unlikely. She's probably after one thing. And that would be money, or looking for her Chad and, her Tyrone, and to play the field sort of thing. A washing optionality. So, no surprise there. But a couple of weeks later, I decided to just test the waters. I sent a message saying, "Hey, Macy, what's good?" And she responded and said, "Well, are you still thinking of that coffee or have you upgraded?" And I was like, okay, I see the game she's playing. Say no worries, let's meet up. Let's meet up for a dinner. I'll take you somewhere nice. Again, will she wash you with her responses? She was like, yes, but I'll see. And then she would disappear. And look, I played the game firstly because I wasn't taking it too seriously, and I thought this kind of girl would probably be playing games that have men waiting, A whole line of men waiting for her. So, whatever. She's very cute. I'll just play along and see what happens. You never know. Now, this is the thing. One evening, I'm just saying, I'm by myself at home. I'm just relaxing. I get a message from her saying, "Hey, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good." She's like, "Oh, I'm at work. I'll be finishing at this time. Are you doing anything later?" Like, "Nah, I'm pretty chilled, not doing much." She's like, "Okay. Do you want to see me?" I'm like, "Of course, no props." And she says, "Okay. Send me your address, or you can just send me an Uber to come over to yours." It's like, wait a minute. This can't be real, sure. So, I did what I do. I jumped up, and I said, "No problems." I cleaned the house, spotless, as one does, and I waited. And she then go back to me a couple hours later saying, "Hey, I'm ready. Sent through the Uber to this address," which I did. Lo and behold, 30 minutes later, she rocks up in my place, and it is her. No catfish, nothing like that. Again, very beautiful, very young, 24, and exactly as she sounded on, over the phone and through her SMS. Long story short, we had a great time and, went all the way, got intimate in, every way imaginable, and she knew what she was doing. She was great. It was a great experience, a great night. And then I dropped off at her place. And we continued chatting. I was still a bit shocked and was thinking, well, that's wild, we don't even meet for a coffee or anything, and you decide to come to my place for a hookup. And then, sure, we continued talking after that, and I continued trying to organize some sort of meetup again, and she was responding, but always a bit busy. Sporadic in her communications, And then she would say, "Oh, I've gone to this place. I've traveled to this state for a little holiday. I've gone to Queensland for a holiday. I'll be back." And she'd send pictures, she'd send news. Some news were taken by a third party, which makes you wonder, okay, who's taking those pictures? And she said, "Oh, it's my friend. It's my girlfriend," or something like that. And, look, I knew there's always something fishy about this girl, but us men, we make concessions if she's pretty enough. And, again, I wasn't really expecting she'd become my girlfriend or anything, but she kept talking about that kind of stuff. Talking about what she wants, she's something serious. She doesn't want to just play around, she wants a man, she wants someone who will be committed to her, and she's willing to submit, and, all that. Some red flags that I got were some stories she'd tell me about some people who, she dated and how she eventually burned them, At some point, here's a crazy story, right? No point, we'll be talking about how we should meet again and all that. And she says she's out with a friend, at a major casino hotel in the city, sends me pictures of herself and a friend, and I say, well, that looks good, What are you guys going to be drinking? And she says, well, it depends on what you decide to get us. Are you going to bless my bank account? I'm like, all right, so you're one of those. That didn't happen. She went quiet for days, if not a week or so. And then, went back into the scene. We didn't talk for a while, and again on Tinder, I saw she was there. And she swiped on me, and we started talking and joking, and anyways, I knew everything was wrong about this. Just wasn't sure what it was. So, when I eventually got tired of the silly games where it just sounded and seemed like we weren't really gonna meet again, she was making all these little suggestions of how I should bless her bank account, how I should think of, how I haven't even given her anything and she's already given me sex, so, I'm thinking, well, are you a working woman? You know what I mean? Are you a lady of the night? Anyways, I decided this is enough games. I'm done with this game. It was fun. And I told her as such. And she seemed pretty upset about it, over the text messages. But I had already said what I had to say. Then she went quiet for a while. And then I saw she had, I think she had been following me on social media or something. So she stopped following me. I was like, that's fine. That's good. It's over. And then a week later, here's the kicker. I get a message on my Instagram from a name I've never seen before, but the surname rang a bell. This was a man, however. And I realized, oh yeah, this is Macy's surname. And the guy says, I'm Macy's husband. Macy has been prostituting herself. Macy has been doing all these crazy things with men, online, social media, but she's my wife. She's got my kid. We live just like a normal family, me, her, and my kid. I've been out here slazing. Meanwhile, she's been prostituting herself. Not just with you, but with many men. And I've seen all their contacts, and I've seen all that's happening, and you're just one of the many. So I'm just trying to let you know, if you could leave my wife alone. I'm trying to see if I can keep my family together. So please, if you know what's good for you, just leave her alone. Now I'd already, shut that door, cut that code. Well, everything started to make sense. So this brings me to the lessons I learned from this. This is a very common story. I've got multiple stories where I eventually found out that this woman I'm seeing, or I'm beginning to see, or I'm dating, or I'm hooking up with, actually has a man at home. It would be this woman I've just had this one night stand with, literally tells you, yes, my husband's at home, he's a dickhead, and I'm doing this for me. He thinks I'm out here shopping or whatever. Now, the signs that clearly show that a woman has a man at home that Macy showed are things such as the sporadic contact, the disappearance, the random meeting.
When least expected.
One might think, oh, it's just someone playing hard to get, or someone with poor communication skills, or someone with a lot of options. Nine times out of 10, if that lack of responsiveness and that lack of predictability, the wishy-washy, the flakiness is extreme, guaranteed, there's someone else in the picture who is probably a long-term partner, and she's trying to maneuver her way around that. Right? Sending messages and those messages not being read for 8, 9, 10 hours could simply mean the person has deleted the app so that their partner wouldn't see it, and then when their partner's away, they would then download the app again, log in, and then continue the conversations. unavailability, not being able to meet up, all that stuff. Now, you ask yourself, why was she talking about what she wants is a relationship, someone committed? I think a lot of women get off the fact that they can get men to admit that they want commitment with them, therefore the attention, the validation that comes from knowing that not only am I desirable as a sexual object, but I'm desirable as a partner, and someone can take me seriously and sees me as wife potential is probably something a lot of these, cheating women get off. If you think of Aisha Khan and how she talked about how men don't look at her, in a sexual way, even though she's with her husband, Steph Curry, she still would appreciate that type of attention every now and then. That kind of tells you, someone that high profile saying stuff like that, you can only imagine beautiful women that you are married to, what goes on in their minds. You think that they look innocent and committed, but deep down their souls, deep down in their minds, behind closed doors and closed curtains, even private and unknown, unbeknownst to their own partners, these things go in their minds, and these actions and these behaviors actually do happen, So don't think that you can't be touched, because you can. I have seen it from the other side. I've seen these women who look so nice, so wholesome, literally rock up, say they just want their guts rearranged, and they have their husband at home, and he's not a nice person, he hasn't been nice to them, so they're doing this for themselves, and there's nothing wrong with it, he won't know anything, he won't be hurt, so this is a totally victimless crime. Watch out, gents. Anyways, plenty more stories like this. And if you would like to hear the next one coming up, just subscribe, follow, put your notifications on, and I will be bringing you a lot more anecdotes of the dating scene in Australia from the viewpoint of a man who has had some success and some failures.